In Baltimore City, homicides are down, but is it impacting public safety? Why some residents say they are scared to even walk out of their doors.
They know what they're doing. They know that if they commit a crime, they're going to more than likely go home.
And questions surrounding how the Department of Juvenile Services decides which kids get released after committing crimes.
And I'm Wyatt. Ever heard a chilly start in the 30s and 40s out there, but a decent warm up on the way for the week ahead. We detail that coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good Sunday morning to you. Looking live over Towson right now, courtesy of our Mile 1 Auto Cam. It is November 12th. I'm Taylor Stewart, and you're in the right place. Let's get to your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at what we're expecting on this game day Sunday.
Hey, good morning, Taylor. Yeah, Ravens game day Sunday. We got the purple on, and we're ready for some action today on the gridiron. It's going to feel like fall football out there. 30s now in Westminster and Easton, low 40s from Aberdeen into the city. I think we see temperatures climb about 10 degrees today. We're going to have a lot of sunshine, but the air is certainly chilled out there, and we still have a northerly flow with widespread 40s, even upper 30s first thing. Now, as the sun comes up today, we'll look for some decent, slow warming. Most of the cloud cover now well south of us. This low pressure area that slid to our south yesterday stayed just south of the Carolina border. That's going to be moving out to sea today. And then behind it, really just clear weather. Clear weather for days, in fact. I think we'll make it into the mid-50s. Probably not this warm today. Probably
Secretary Lisa Gary about how the department determines whether to detain or release a juvenile.
And we complete what is called a detention risk assessment instrument. That is an instrument that we've been using for the last 12 years.
A decision essentially made by the push of a button.
Once we apply the detention risk assessment instrument, we get a sense of a youth's low, moderate, or high risk of failing to appear for court and or picking up a new offense.
But what's being considered a low risk?
I am deeply concerned.
Concerning all the way from City Hall.
We're seeing it in our neighborhoods. We're seeing it in all of our communities around carjackings.
To the streets of Baltimore City.
To get driven home? They drove them home after.
This woman viciously beaten by a 12 and 14-year-old. Arrested and released 2 hours later.
I should feel safe enough to walk home.
Even the 14-year-old's mother.
I don't know, I don't know what to do with him.
Calling out DJS's decision-making.
I think that some issues need to be addressed as far as dealing with the juvenile services system, because I've been going back and forth trying to get the help that I need for him.
And she's not the only parent.
The second time that he got in trouble for stealing a car and nothing happened, you know what I mean? I wanted to leave him there so he can learn his lesson.
Saying the department's risk assessment tool may need some calibrating.
It was validated in, I believe, 2015 and updated twice since that time.
An outdated way of thinking many feel has been figured out by those it's meant to oversee.
They know what they're doing. They know that if they commit a crime, they're going to more than likely go home.
A juvenile get locked up right now, he comes straight home back to wherever he was at.
Well, earlier this week, we told you about a 12-year-old who was arrested for armed robbery and then released within hours. 2 days later, he was arrested again for the exact same offense. These are not the only problems we're facing with the Juvenile Department of Services. The agency is facing scrutiny about how they manage young offenders. Earlier this year, Maryland's Attorney General found problems with education, unsanitary conditions, boredom, and unsafe staffing levels. There's also questions about the effectiveness of their GPS monitoring. This summer, a teen under their supervision was linked to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. And in August, Fox 45 News found that over 100 youth were under GPS monitoring, but just 14 members of the staff at DJS were assigned to supervise them.
They're not complying with the terms that have been imposed, and they will continue to think that their actions are just not all that serious.
Fox 45 has relentlessly covered issues within the state's Department of Juvenile Services. And for more of our stories, you can head to our website, foxbaltimore.com. An at-home rape kit banned and several other states now facing controversy right here in Maryland, while the Attorney General says the company is making deceptive claims.
And I'm Wyatt Everhart, feeling like fall out there today as temperatures slowly climb into the low 50s out of the 30s and 40s this morning. We'll talk about the week ahead. How many days of sunshine? You might like the answer. It's coming.
New this morning, Baltimore County Police are asking for help identifying this suspect. It's in connection to a fatal hit and run in Woodlawn. Police say the crash happened back in July on the 3rd in the area of Dogwood Road and Rolling Road. The female suspect you see on the left side of your screen was driving a burgundy or maroon SUV at the time of this crash. If you've got any information about this crash or the suspect, give police a call or submit an anonymous tip through Metro Crime Stoppers. City schools employees accused of breaking the law. Fox 45 News' Project Baltimore team uncovers years of findings, including grade changing and physically abusing students. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Look, we're talking about employees accused of grade changing, physically abusing children, and collecting paychecks for work that was not done. Over the past few years, those are just a few of the allegations Baltimore City Schools has investigated concerning its own employees. And as Project Baltimore's Chris Pabst reports, that is just the start.
$1.6 billion. That is how much money Baltimore City Schools will get from taxpayers this year. And we believe you, the taxpaying public, deserves to know what the district and its employees are doing with your money. And part of that is who Baltimore City Schools investigates internally and why. December 2019. A Baltimore City Schools employee is found to have choked an 8th grade student to the point where that student couldn't breathe. 2 years later, in December 2021, another City Schools employee is accused and found guilty of kicking a nonverbal student and then aggressively dragging them 3 or 4 times. These are just 2 findings from recent Baltimore City Schools internal investigations reviewed by Project Baltimore. From a public records request, we obtained 4 years worth of internal investigations conducted by North Avenue into its own employees. Each report with confirmed findings, 79 in total. Over the next few months, we will show you what's in these reports, which document a wide range of issues plaguing Baltimore City Schools. Issues like grade changing. In January 2019, City Schools investigator confirmed allegations of grade changing for student athletes to make them eligible to play sports. Much of this report is redacted. We can't see which schools were involved or how many students, but we can see the report found grades were changed from failing to passing by 2 school employees with no valid explanation. More than 1 year later, in June 2020, a teacher was found to have used profanity while holding class. The teacher, according to the report, said during his online lesson, "I'm not doing this. These kids don't know." In all of those internal investigations, the employee who was investigated no longer works for Baltimore City Schools, including the employee from this investigation. This report is interesting because it raises very serious questions over who City Schools chooses to investigate and who it chooses not to investigate. This report was filed in July 2019. It explains how a district employee was collecting a paycheck for work that was not done. At one point, according to this report, the employee used a personal cell phone to initiate a Facebook Live video during her assigned City Schools work hours. According to North Avenue, the employee received more than $2,100 for about 111 hours of work, but was not actually working. If that sounds familiar, it should. Project Baltimore, back in January, first broke the story that City Schools police detective and state champion football coach Lawrence Smith was submitting forms for overtime when it appears he was not actually working. Here, Smith in a Facebook Live video can be seen driving a boat on the Chesapeake Bay at the exact time his overtime form says he was working.
You want to say something to your players, Coach?
Smith was later arrested by the FBI, in part for allegations of fraudulently obtaining more than $215,000 in overtime. But City Schools never launched an internal investigation into Smith. In fact, in April, after this Fox 45 report aired, City Schools promoted Smith to corporal. Meanwhile, this person was treated very differently. North Avenue launched an investigation into this employee who no longer works for the district. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Wow, a lot to dig into those reports. Let's get over, though, to meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at our forecast. The gridiron's hot today. Is the weather working our way, Wyatt?
I think so. I mean, it's a beautiful start this morning, right, visually, and we're going to have a lot of sunshine today. That's all positive. if there's any negative, I mean, it's just that the chill is going to hold a little better today than yesterday. I think a little longer to climb out of the 40s into the 50s. There's a reason for that. Talk about that in a second. First, 42 degrees right now, BWI. Winds are light from the north, feeling like the upper 30s with that breeze. And really, the wind and the wind direction is the culprit today. More of a northerly flow, even northeasterly flow, will kind of hold these numbers down a few more degrees than otherwise would be the case. So 39 Bel Air now, 39 Cockeysville, some of the coolest spots, including Essex. The city itself, though, in the low 40s. There's that northerly flow. And so, you know, again, that breeze coming in out of the North Country will continue to keep things cool. You see, we've had a few gusts since midnight, pushing 20 miles per hour. Now, I don't think it's going to be that windy today overall, but there will be a breeze. You're tailgating for the Ravens game day downtown. Brisk. Make sure you've got the purple or black windbreaker on. That's the key. Cut that wind. As we see the morning hours hovering in the 40s around here. Now, again, there'll be some sunshine, so that's the positive news. Always feels a little warmer if you can stand in that direct sunlight. You're in the shade. You're definitely going to need the extra layer today. Mostly cloudy skies out there right now. You can see that low pressure area that brought the rain to primarily North Carolina yesterday, continuing to skirt south of us. This is going to continue to move offshore and away from Maryland as we go into the next, we'll call it 12 to 24 hours. Behind that system, it's just more dry, clear conditions. That's going to mean a crisp, chilly night tonight, another frost on the way. And then as we go through the day Monday, a better warm-up, less of a north breeze. And that will be the trend each day through at least the middle part of the week around here. Lots of sunshine kind of helping the chill be mitigated to a certain degree. Again, overall, we see the pattern here is dry. Chilly air is in place for today, at least, and tonight. Begins to moderate a little bit tomorrow. Big high pressure cell over eastern Canada, and there's that kind of northeasterly breeze wrapping around that clockwise flow around that high pressure cell. And so you actually see the impacts. There's milder air in the country's midsection today, but wrapping around that northeasterly flow kind of keeps much of the northeast in the 40s and 50s today for high temperatures. As we look at the overall trend, we do mild things up a little bit here as we go into the middle part of the week here, trending milder, I should say, into the 60-degree range. Then as we push toward late week, I think we're into the mid-60s here. By the way, the biggest thing I think with this forecast notable, just so dry for so many days. I mean, our next chance for rain, not until Friday into Saturday of next weekend, and we'll see if that even holds up. That's it for now. Back to you.
All right. Well, millions of people across the U.S. are celebrating Veterans Weekend. The Montana nonprofit that's offering mental health services to the active duty service members this year. Stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Well, this Veterans Day weekend, over 150 military members and their families received a special holiday meal as part of Operation Homefront's 13th annual Holiday Meals for Military. Families from Fort Meade Andrews Air Force Base and the Maryland National Guard were all given holiday meal kits. According to event organizers, this event comes at a critical time for families. They say more than 26% of active duty enlisted service members have reported some level of food insecurity.
It's important for our families and our military members to understand that America's behind them. You know, they're out there in harm's way doing great things, protecting this country, our way of life. And it's really important for them to understand that, you know, America's behind them and supports them. And on a Veterans Day, something like this where we can gather and kind of show our support, this is what it's all about.
Now this year, the organization says they hope to help more than 700,000 individual family members nationwide. Now, as we continue to honor the brave men and women who served our country, we want to highlight some of the special programs helping service members. Angela Brown with the National Desk takes a look at a unique program happening in Montana.
The program is called Big Sky Bravery, and it's different because it focuses on active duty special operations forces. Jake Kaufman speaks for those who can't.
War is very gruesome, and you see and do things that's hard to fathom that you've done and you've seen. I spent 8 or 9 years being gone, about 300 days a year.
Kaufman, a retired Air Force pararescue man, survived brutal combat.
I got blown up by a couple grenades in 2013.
After retiring, Kaufman said he didn't want to be here anymore when someone recommended Big Sky Bravery.
We had a few recipients, unfortunately, say that they were suicidal before they came out, and after they had left Big Sky Bravery, they no longer want to hurt themselves.
First Sergeant retired Jeremy Keller is the Chief Strategy Officer for Big Sky Bravery in Montana after spending 17 years in special operations, serving in Afghanistan, 18 combat deployments, putting up mental walls to survive.
My ability to be a husband and a father was severely tarnished.
Watching Jeremy struggle inspired his brother-in-law, Josh McCain, to start Big Sky Bravery 8 years ago.
Start something for individuals who have sacrificed their entire life to defend our Constitution.
It's a week-long program for active duty special operation forces, allowing them to decompress through high adrenaline activities during the day.
Not only is that person going to help them learn how to ski and fly fish and all these other recreational things, they're more importantly going to show them that vulnerability is the key to success here.
Then at night, it gets personal, asking service members probing questions like this one.
What's troubling you in your life?
A mental and emotional restart for those still serving, witnessing the horrors of combat and carrying that burden with them.
Who we want them to be when they leave is just somebody who has hope.
That was Angela Brown reporting there. If you'd like to donate to give to the Big Sky Bravery, you can scan that QR code right on your screen. Donations go directly towards helping them rest, decompress, and take their minds off of combat as they come home. Well, it's feeling like fall outside today with temperatures crawling up into the 50s. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart lets us know when we can expect to see the sun in his full forecast. Maryland's Attorney General warning of misleading claims made by an at-home rape kit manufacturer. After the break, we're investigating those concerns surrounding your health. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good Sunday morning to you. Look at that sun. Look at that sky. It is a game day Sunday this November 12th. I'm Taylor Stewart. You're in the right place. Let's get over to the man with the plan, meteorologist Wyatt Everhart, with our plans for this weekend based on the weather. Good morning, man.
Hey, plans for football today, right, Taylor? I mean, feeling like football out there, get that chill in the air, and lots of sunshine today as well. So not a bad day, really, for November. We're talking about some upper 30s on the board, like Easton and Westminster, but also many low 40s already. Baltimore itself actually never falling below freezing last night, so no widespread frost in the city, at least. But in the outer parts of Maryland, outer suburbs, certainly we find colder numbers. Westminster 37, 40 now in Denton, and 36 as you go west toward Frederick. Overall, you know, just a few fair weather clouds. The main weather maker on the board over the last 24 hours has continued to slide just south of Maryland, so we've stayed out of the active weather. I think today we're talking about numbers into the low 50s for the most part. If your travels take you south toward Richmond, you may find some upper 50s on the board, a little cooler off to the north. The trend, again, is overall a slow climb through the 40s today. Got a north breeze out there. That north breeze will kind of keep temperatures down just a little bit lower than they would otherwise be with so much sun on the way. We'll talk about the trend for the week ahead. Sunshine for days. It's coming up.
All right, sounds good, Wyatt. Well, developing now, should survivors of sexual assault be able to gather their own evidence after the crime? It's a question Maryland lawmakers may soon consider. Fox 45's Shannon Lilly investigates.
Over 50 years ago, the at-home pregnancy test created a lot of controversy, so we see ourselves in the same light.
It's being touted as an easy, innovative tool.
Most survivors aren't coming forward, and they're having to handle that without the support that they may need.
But inside this little box,
it says here, for survivors, by survivors.
A way for survivors of sexual assault to do the work typically cut out for a trained forensic nurse, collecting DNA instead from the comfort of their own home.
To go immediately to a hospital setting after being assaulted can be intimidating.
Lita Health COO Dr. Sean Bogle stopping by Fox 45 News back in August as he made the rounds, marketing Lita's early evidence kits around the state. His visit preceded by this press release sent to us from a PR agency called Flow Communications on the company's behalf. It claims a new state law rolling out in October would allow for these so-called do-it-yourself kits to be used as evidence and administered by healthcare professionals.
The bill makes it very clear that at-home kits can be acknowledged in a court setting as a piece of a medical record.
But those are misleading claims, according to the very senator sponsoring the bill.
Senator Hettleman with two bills now.
We are not giving our blessing to them. We are at the point where we're considering how and if they should be available in Maryland. I have concerns about how the company is representing itself.
And she's not the first to raise red flags.
Before you is House Bill 1564.
Clear across the country to the opposite coast, a battle playing out in a February Washington House committee hearing.
There is no good reason to make a survivor of sexual assault pay to unknowingly prevent the justice in their case.
We do not sell directly to consumers or victims. We present an additive option.
That additional option, though, brimming with glaring problems, according to Washington state leaders and attorneys.
There are acceptable standards for evidence collection and evidence handling, and these kits do not meet the mark.
Just imagine you take your own rape test kit evidence and then you go take a shower. And then you find out that the evidence that you collected in your room will never make it to trial.
Washington State Representative Gina Mossbrucker forging the bill to ban at-home kits in her state. That bill passing and signed into Washington state law in May, but not without a fight.
But when we got to the Senate, the lobbyist was waiting for every legislator before every meeting out of their office to try to convince them to vote against banning it. I've been a legislator 10 years next year. I've never seen that.
Months prior, this cease and desist letter issued by the Washington Attorney General's office accuses Lita Health of deceptive practices and preying on a vulnerable population. And the more we look, the more we find. Here, cease and desist letters and warnings stacking up in states across the country
for Me Too kits. It was the company's original name before rebranding to Leda Health.
And that brings us back to Maryland, where Fox 45 News is now uncovering this letter circling from the Maryland Attorney General's office. The office confirming to us the letter was sent in August to hospitals, universities, and other agencies, warning them of multiple and repeated reports that at least one manufacturer has been making false and misleading statements in promotion of their self-administered collection kits. The Attorney General not confirming Leda Health is that manufacturer when we questioned, but claims like the one sent to us in this press release, indicating the kits could be authorized and administered in the state and used as evidence come October 1st, deemed false in the AG's letter.
To in any way apply that this is going to be admissible in court, I think is very misleading.
Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger warned against at-home kits back in 2019. He didn't believe the kits would be a pathway to justice then, and tells me the same is true now. At issue?
We document the chain of custody of exactly when it was taken, who had it, and the next person to touch it.
The lacking chain of custody needed for prosecution, and the inability for a survivor to submit the DNA they've collected into the National Criminal Database called CODIS.
If you're sexually assaulted by somebody you didn't know and you use an at-home kit, that kit and the test you do, even if we get DNA off of it, will not be admissible in the CODIS system. And that means we may never find the person who sexually assaulted you.
Schellenberger serves on the Sexual Assault Evidence Kit Committee. It's a group of police, prosecutors, nurses now tasked with looking into these at-home kits and providing recommendations to the legislature come December as directed by Senate Bill 789. I asked Schellenberger if a ban like that in Washington could be in the cards for Maryland.
That could definitely be a possibility in the legislature.
Do you think it needs to be?
Let's see how this plays out.
Meanwhile, Leda Health maintains it is not a medical care provider and encourages survivors to seek professional care.
Simply looking for DNA. So it's not intended to give a survivor false hope or be a silver bullet.
Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
Great reporting from Shannon Lilly there. Now, in a statement to Fox 45, Leda's Health is responding to the criticism, saying they will work hand in hand with politicians and nonprofits and regulators to ensure all survivors are heard. And we've posted their full statement on our website. You can read it for yourself at foxbaltimore.com. Fox 45 News is demanding answers more than 2 weeks after that FBI raid at a Safe Streets location. The new statement from LifeBridge Health that's raising even more questions.
And high pressure in control across the East Coast, going to keep us sunny and dry and on the chilly side today. We'll detail all the numbers for you coming up right here on Fox 45 Morning News.
Making headlines this morning, Seattle could see a dramatic swing in its city council when it comes to public safety policy. It's something the city's business community is watching closely because of the ongoing issues with theft, drug use, and homelessness. Jerry Harris from our Sinclair affiliate in Seattle shares the story.
3rd and Pike has long been the intersection of Seattle's most pressing issues.
It's rough.
Drug use, mental health.
At night, it'll be outrageous down here.
And violent crime.
You can't have people bashing each other to death with poles and sticks.
Ben Gant sees it all from his stand on the corner, where today they are installing new fencing around known spots for drug users. You're giving Narcan to people regularly.
Oh, yeah, we hawk it like newspapers down here.
The mayor has pledged to clean up 3rd Avenue since taking office. Now it looks like he'll have a new city council more aligned with his public safety agenda. Early results show Rob Saka and Joy Hollingsworth with comfortable leads. Both ran campaigns to address public drug use and crime. So did candidate Bob Kettle, who has a 7-point lead over incumbent Andrew Lewis.
It's important that voters understand that this is not going to be a flip the switch on January and all our problems go away.
Aaron Goodman with the Soto Business Improvement Area says Seattle's business community is hoping for an overhaul of the council. You've been critical of how the current council has handled public safety in the city.
Our businesses are victimized on a regular basis, and this council has largely looked at property crimes as not really an issue.
But theft, drug use, and street crime are what small business owners like Layla Farange say need to be priority 1 for the new council. Do you think they'll actually be able to make a material difference?
Yes, I'm very hopeful. When the mayor came in, he said he's going to clean up. He did. And with the leadership of Mr. Mayor and the new council, hopefully we're going to get a new Seattle.
King County elections officials tell us they anticipate releasing more ballots tomorrow. That could decide the fate of several of the key city council races here in Seattle. Seattle's mayor says he's watching these races closely, and he looks forward to working with that new council on the issues of public safety and homelessness.
Is it time to cut the cord? Lots of folks already have. After the break, a closer look at the cable versus streaming debate. Okay, topping your consumer news. This is interesting, okay? Streaming services continue to gain ground on cable TV, and they could soon end it for good. So what would the new cost be, right? The Nielsen company says last year streaming beat out cable TV for viewing in the first time ever. So if you switch and ditch, remember streaming services are implemented. They've just implemented, recent price increases. So the report says that cable TV ranges from about $83 to $125 monthly. Streaming, though, could run you around $147 monthly, depending on your add-ons and how many bundles you have. All right, I want to bring Wyatt into this conversation. Have you cut the cord yet, or are you still running with cable?
I mean, we have the high-speed internet, and then we've got, I don't know how many apps, right, on the Roku. And so, yeah, I guess technically we don't really just, like, flip cable channels. You know what, I will say one last thing. I do love the HD quality signal we get from, like, Fox, obviously, and the other stations. This is like free TV, like Ravens games, whatever, right?
And you can
College
stream
football.
the Ravens. I mean, I'm still in this debate, too. You can stream the Ravens game and watch, or you could turn on it's just, so who knows? But either way, great weather today to watch the game.
Lots of options, and a good day to maybe take in, obviously, football. Look, if you're going to be out and about today, you're tailgating, you're going to the game, a little crisper than the game last weekend. 42 right now, BWI winds are northeast around 10 miles per hour, so that northeasterly breeze, the main culprit, have sunshine today, was the main culprit in kind of holding these numbers back a little bit. So we're not saying like a dramatic warm up. 10, 12 degrees, wind up in the low 50s later today. But there's that northerly flow. And so it's that northerly flow that'll kind of hold temperatures at bay somewhat, we'll say. I mean, we might briefly touch, say, 54 in the city late this afternoon. Most of the day, in the morning at least, in the 40s and then low 50s toward the course of the afternoon, and then dropping into the 40s again tonight. You see our main weather maker staying well south of us, so no rain this weekend around here. We've stayed nice and dry. A mix of sun and clouds, a little bit of cloud cover early today. Then I think we get sunnier into the afternoon hours as that low pressure area to our south just gets further and further away. We're setting the stage for just a bright scenario here and in the next several days. So sunglasses certainly on order. Overall, it is a dry weather scenario. Chilly air sits in place, but it again begins to moderate a little bit here toward midweek as this chilly Canadian high pressure slides a little further off to the east. You see that mild air in the country's midsection kind of reflects more what our midweek temps will look like. But for now, we're on that northeasterly side of the high. That's going to kind of hold us back a little bit today. So low 50s at best today, but upper 50s on Monday. And then I think we're going to hover right around 60 early in the week, maybe make it into the mid 60s by late week, and a chance for showers coming back all the way at the end of the week into next weekend. But we'll see if that even holds up. Back to you, Taylor.
All right, well, a 4-game losing streak snapped as Maryland football picks up its first win since September 30th. Relive the thrilling finish in Lincoln just next in Sports Unlimited.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. After a 5-0 start to the season, Maryland football dropped its next 4 and looked like a completely different team. A win Saturday in Lincoln would not only snap the losing skid, the Terps would become bowl eligible in the process. Maryland taking on Nebraska. Mike Loxley knows how hard it is to win on the road. And this one was no walk in the park. Scoreless in the second. Talia Tungavailoa looking deep. And he's got Ty Felton for the big 53-yard pickup. On the very next play, Talia gonna feed the hot hand because why not? It's Felton again. He coasts in for 6, 7-0 Terps. Let's go to the third. Huskers knocking. Jonaren Bonner knocks down the door. This game is tied at 7. Let's fast forward to the fourth now. Tied at 10. If you had the under, my condolences. Roman Hemby busts off a big 21-yard gain to set up the Terps with great field position. Field goal wins it. Jack Howes on to attempt a 23-yarder with 1 second left, and he drills it. Terps are now bowl eligible and snap their 4-game losing streak with a 13-10 win.
Our players were excited. Like I said, they understand that, there were some things that we can correct, but we're going to enjoy this one because winning on the road is tough. And it wasn't pretty, but they found a way to get the job done, and that's what we'll continue to focus on.
We're very much in high spirit right now. We're going bowling. You can't be mad about that. The past is the past, and we gotta, come and be our best in the next 2 games.
Michigan taking on Penn State. Jim Harbaugh serving a 3-game suspension. So offensive coordinator Sharon Moore taking over head coaching duties. Blake Corum punches it in from 3 yards out. 7-3 Wolverines. Later in the second, Penn State trailing 14-3. Drew Aller finds pay dirt on the designed run. Nittany Lions trailed 14-9 at half. Fourth quarter, Michigan up 17-9. Corum on the give. Corum to the crib. The former St. Francis Academy standout goes 30 yards untouched as Michigan beats Penn State 24-15. The Wolverines will travel to College Park next Saturday to take on the Terps, and that'll be a big one. In Annapolis, Navy hosting UAB. Mids looking to get back in the win column after drop. Tough road game for Towson. Tigers squaring off with 13th-ranked Villanova, and they had no answer early on for this connection. Connor Watkins dials up Rajon Pringle. 79 yards later, the Wildcats take the lead. Second quarter, Watkins looking for his guy again, and he's got him. Pringle, 63 yards. Towson trailed 24-0 at the half. Late in the fourth, this one's out of reach, but Towson not going to go down without a fight. Christopher Watkins, 75 yards to the house, but it's Villanova taking this one over Towson, 33-10 the final. Morgan State on the road against South Carolina State. Bears winners of 2 straight, down 8 in the third. J.J. Davis on the give. Turns on the burners, and he is gone. 53-yard touchdown. That cuts the Bulldogs' lead to 1. 5 minutes to go in this one. Bulldogs with a 4-point lead. Jordan Tolles going to field the kickoff. Bit of a squib kick. And he goes straight beast mode. Nobody can bring this guy down. Gets a few big blocks. Just bulldozing everyone in his path. 73-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and that proved to be the difference as the Bears beat SC State 20-17. Undefeated Johns Hopkins hosting McDaniel, regular season finale for both squads. And this was a game the Blue Jays controlled, already with a 21-0 lead. Bay Harvey to Cole Crotty on the deep ball. Blue Jays finished the regular season at 10-0 with the 58-7 victory. Stevenson caps off its regular season win with an overtime victory over Eastern, thanks to Brody Campbell's game-winning field goal. With the victory, the Mustangs finished with a 7-3 record, and more importantly, they clinch a MAC Centennial Bowl bid. The Ravens dismantled the Browns the first time around, playing one of their most complete games of the season in the 28-3 win in Cleveland. The biggest difference this time around is who's going to be starting at quarterback. Last time, Dorian Thompson-Robinson got the start with Deshaun Watson being held out due to injury. That won't be the case on Sunday with Watson good to go. While the Ravens, they know the challenges Watson presents as a dual-threat quarterback. This is a defense that is locked in and ready to go.
Obviously, it's Deshaun Watson. They give him all that money for a reason. So he's a great player. But at the end of the day, he's coming to our stadium with our team, with our defense, with our fans. So that place is going to be rocking. We're going to have it rocking. We're going to do what we need to on defense to get them jumping and just try to shut them down.
Good veteran quarterback. Been in the league for a while, so got a lot of respect for him. The guy can, let it rip, and then, he's able to use his legs as well. So we'll be very prepared for it. A lot of confidence in Mike, the defensive staff, to have us ready for the game. So looking forward to it.
4 players questionable for Sunday's game. Marlon Humphrey and Keaton Mitchell with hamstring injuries, Jalen Armour-Davis with an illness, and Morgan Moses with a shoulder injury. So we're months away from March, but madness in college basketball is really a season-long thing with buzzer beaters, upsets, and everything that comes with it. Loyola eyeing its first win of the year. Greyhounds down 1 to Brown in OT. David Brown III with 1.7 seconds to go. Money. Loyola beats Brown in an overtime thriller, 77 to 75. UMBC playing host to Marist. Retrievers trailed by as many as 15 in this one. Deion Brown had a game-high 23. Cuts the Marist lead to 3 here. UMBC would get that lead down to 1, but it's Marist holding off the Retrievers for the 65-59 victory. Coppin State taking on Mount St. Mary's. The Mount up big in the second to Shane Montgomery. Showtime. Cosim for the two-handed slam. That makes it a 16-point game. Eagles put up a fight late off the steal. Arion Jones finishes with the jam, but it's Mount St. Mary's pulling away for the 74-60 victory. That's going to do it for your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
It is 8 o'clock. You're looking live over Towson on this gorgeous fall day. It's November 12th. I'm Taylor Stewart, and you're in the right place. Let's get over to your forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with a look at our game day temps.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a crisp fall football kind of day around here, Taylor. No question about that. A little bit of north breeze out there this morning, right around 10 miles per hour from the north-northeast. So that's going to kind of hold temps down just a little bit today. M&T Bank Stadium looking good out there this morning, but the early tailgaters finding 30s and eventually 40s through most of the early day hours. Now, after midday, we'll punch up just a little bit above 50 degrees, but it takes, again, through at least lunchtime to get there. These numbers will be dropping off again this evening, down through the 40s. There is quite a bit of sunshine in the outlook. We'll talk about just how long that holds up coming up.
This morning, in a city in crisis, the FBI continues to remain tight-lipped about the current investigation involving Safe Streets. But as Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost explains from the Accountability Desk, the latest probe proves the need for more transparency surrounding this program.
As the federal investigation continues involving at least 3 Safe Streets workers from the Bel Air Edison location, I want to explain how this investigation relates to the questions that we've been asking for more than 2 years. Mayor Brandon Scott, Monzi leaders, and the 2 nonprofits, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge, those are the 2 running the 10 different Safe Streets locations. They've all refused to tell us who the Safe Streets employees are. However, we've been able to identify a few of the employees, but that's only because of court records and tips from you at home, not because these leaders have been transparent. This is Ronald Alexander. Now, this photo came from a federal case file, so the quality isn't the best, but you can see him wearing a Safe Streets t-shirt, and he's carrying what federal prosecutors say was a bag of drugs. Now, according to plea agreements and these court documents that we obtained, Ronald Alexander not only pleaded guilty to drug distribution charges in 2021, but he also tried to use his position as a violence interrupter within the Safe Streets program to get out of a traffic stop with Baltimore police. And this is Ricky Evans. In his plea agreement from 2018, he told federal prosecutors that he was using the Safe Streets location he was working at as a meeting place for the Black Guerrilla family, or the BGF gang. Also detailed in those documents, he told prosecutors he used the same Safe Streets location as a place to stash his guns and drugs. And then we have Vernon Harper. We don't have a photo of him, but he again pleaded guilty to federal drug distribution charges in October of 2022, and again while working for Safe Streets. Now, in this federal affidavit that we obtained from 2010, Harper's name comes up, and it's because of his possible BGF affiliations. Now, we'll take a closer look at what's in this entire document in a few days. Now, the FBI won't say much about the scope of their investigation involving some Safe Streets workers, but sources close to the probe tell us it's involving possible BGF affiliation. Now, we did get a lengthy statement from LifeBridge, the nonprofit running this Safe Streets site in particular. Here's what they said. Part of the statement from LifeBridge Health: there is no reason to initiate any other investigations. This warrant was isolated to a single employee, and the Bel Air Edison site was his place of work. That was the focus of a search warrant. But we know that isn't true because the FBI executed 15 different search warrants, including David Caldwell. He's one of the Safe Streets workers that's now facing state-level charges because of an FBI raid, and 2 other Safe Streets workers also had federal agents show up at their house. And that's exactly why we've been asking questions of the mayor, Monzi, and the nonprofits running the Safe Streets locations. Questions like, will you release the names of the Safe Streets workers? When will you launch an investigation into all the Safe Streets sites? We'll continue to demand answers from city leaders to find out more information about how they're spending your tax dollars, and we're still digging for details about the latest FBI investigation into these Safe Streets workers and what could come next. At the Accountability Desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, joining us this morning in studio to weigh in, Giovanni Patterson, the chairman for the People for Elected Accountability and Civic Engagement, known as PEACE. Good morning to you, Giovanni.
Good morning, Taylor.
I want to go back to that statement. For the last few weeks, we've struggled to get answers from Monzi, from Safe Streets leaders, and LifeBridge. But take a look at the statement that they just released. It says there's no reason to initiate any other investigations. This warrant was isolated to a single employee, and the Bel Air site was his place of work, which was the focus of the search warrant. My question, though, is, are these employees not the lifeblood of this organization?
Well, I mean, of course they are, and you know, it does hinge upon, you know, these violence interrupters, and I think, you know, the people are demanding transparency, right? And any, you know, statements or messages sent to, you know, counter that transparency do throw up a red flag, right? I think the people of Baltimore, you know, we're spending our tax dollars for a program that's going through some turmoil, and I think, you know, people should know what's really going on.
I mean, we're talking about like a keystone violence intervention program here in the city with potentially ties to the historically violent BGF gang. How can residents trust that everyone involved in this organization is truly on the right side of the law?
Right. I mean, we'd want to, right? I mean, you know, and again, I'm going to say it again. No one doesn't want Safe Streets to work as a program, right? You know, the citizens of Baltimore want to be safe, and they want to have opportunities, particularly for people that were, you know, formerly incarcerated, you know, to help and be, you know, a light within their community. But there is a level of transparency that is required, right? And, you know, but from all the actions that we've seen, you know, activities, you know, from Safe Streets locations, things happening to Safe Streets workers, and now this FBI, you know, investigation, you know, it does, you know, cause some concern, and people should demand transparency.
I mean, there were a total of 15 raids in the last 2 weeks. McKinsey Frost has been digging into it. In fact, she has another report coming out later tonight. But seriously, does the fact that Safe Streets operates as an independent entity, they're not necessarily under the city, does that structure create this availability for the lack of oversight? And should that change?
Well, it does, right? I mean, when you look at how this is, you know, administered and set up, right? When you follow the money, because it goes through the hands of the, you know, the nonprofits, that's what makes it a bit tricky. But when you look at how it's administered, you know, and how things actually operate with Safe Streets, I mean, it's really just an extension of a city agency. I mean, Monty essentially, you know, dictates what and approves everything Safe Streets does. So there is kind of this loophole, if you will, of how, you know, it's operated and how it's funded. So it is a city agency, but the way the money flows, it allows it to be, you know, avoid transparency, and that is what, you know, is the breeding ground for, you know, corruption. Because if you can't follow the money, if you can't be transparency on how the money goes, the same reporting requirements that, you know, the city has, then, you know, it can be a breeding ground for corruption.
We'll leave it there because we've got a lot more questions that we'll be asking and hopefully answers we'll be getting. McKinsey Frost has a report that's coming out later this evening that digs into those FBI raids. We'll continue to follow the program.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you.
Well, as we said, Fox 45 News has been investigating Safe Streets for years now. You can find all of our previous reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. An at-home rape kit banned in several states, now facing controversy here in Maryland. Why the Attorney General says the company's claims are deceptive.
And I'm Wyatt Everhart, starting off in the 40s, but heading into the low 50s as the Browns come into town at Ravens game day. Forecast looking crisp. We'll talk much more about the outlook for the week ahead, though. Do temperatures move much? The answer straight ahead.
New this morning, Baltimore County Police are asking for your help in identifying this suspect. It's in connection to a fatal hit and run in Woodlawn, and it happened back on July 3rd around noon in the area of Dogwood Road and Rolling Road. The female suspect you see on the left side of your screen was driving a burgundy or maroon SUV at the time of the crash. Anyone with information about the suspect or the crash is asked to call police, or you can submit an anonymous tip through Metro Crime Stoppers. Maryland's Attorney General warning of misleading claims made by an at-home rape kit manufacturer. After the break, we are investigating the concerns surrounding Lita Health. Developing now, should survivors of sexual assault be able to gather their own evidence after the crime? That's a question Maryland lawmakers may soon consider. Fox 45's Shannon Lilly investigates.
Over 50 years ago, the at-home pregnancy test created a lot of controversy, so we see ourselves in the same light.
It's being touted as an easy, innovative tool.
Most survivors aren't coming forward, and they're having to handle that without the support that they may need.
But inside this little box,
it says here, for survivors, by survivors.
A way for survivors of sexual assault to do the work typically cut out for a trained forensic nurse, collecting DNA instead from the comfort of their own home.
To go immediately to a hospital setting after being assaulted can be intimidating.
Lita Health COO Dr. Sean Bogle stopping by Fox 45 News back in August as he made the rounds, marketing Lita's early evidence kits around the state. His visit preceded by this press release sent to us from a PR agency called Flow Communications on the company's behalf. It claims a new state law rolling out in October would allow for these so-called do-it-yourself kits to be used as evidence and administered by healthcare professionals.
The bill makes it very clear that at-home kits can be acknowledged in a court setting as a piece of a medical record.
But those are misleading claims, according to the very senator sponsoring the bill.
Senator Hettleman with two bills now.
We are not giving our blessing to them. We are at the point where we're considering how and if they should be available in Maryland. I have concerns about how the company is representing itself.
And she's not the first to raise red flags.
Before you is House Bill 1564.
Clear across the country to the opposite coast, a battle playing out in a February Washington House committee hearing.
There is no good reason to make a survivor of sexual assault pay to unknowingly prevent the justice in their case.
We do not sell directly to
consumers, or victims. We present an additive option.
That additional option, though, brimming with glaring problems, according to Washington state leaders and attorneys.
There are acceptable standards for evidence collection and evidence handling, and these kits do not meet the mark.
Just imagine you take your own rape test kit evidence and then you go take a shower. And then you find out that the evidence that you collected in your room will never make it to trial.
Washington State Representative Gina Mossbrucker forging the bill to ban at-home kits in her state. That bill passing and signed into Washington state law in May, but not without a fight.
But when we got to the Senate, the lobbyist was waiting for every legislator before every meeting out of their office to try to convince them to vote against banning it. I've been a legislator 10 years next year. I've never seen that.
Months prior, this cease and desist letter issued by the Washington Attorney General's office accuses Leda Health of deceptive practices and preying on a vulnerable population.
And the more we look, the more we find. Here, cease and desist letters and warnings stacking up in states across the country for Me Too kits. It was the company's original name before rebranding to Leda Health.
And that brings us back to Maryland, where Fox 45 News is now uncovering this letter circling from the Maryland Attorney General's office. The office confirming to us the letter was sent in August to hospitals, universities, and other agencies, warning them of multiple and repeated reports that at least one manufacturer has been making false and misleading statements in promotion of their self-administered collection kits. The Attorney General not confirming Leda Health is that manufacturer when we questioned, but claims like the one sent to us in this press release, indicating the kits could be authorized and administered in the state and used as evidence come October 1st, deemed false in the AG's letter.
To in any way apply that this is going to be admissible in court, I think is very misleading.
Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger warned against at-home kits back in 2019. He didn't believe the kits would be a pathway to justice then, and tells me the same is true now. At issue?
We document the chain of custody of exactly when it was taken, who had it, and the next person to touch it.
The lacking chain of custody needed for prosecution, and the inability for a survivor to submit the DNA they've collected into the National Criminal Database called CODIS.
If you're sexually assaulted by somebody you didn't know and you use an at-home kit, that kit and the test you do, even if we get DNA off of it, will not be admissible in the CODIS system. And that means we may never find the person who sexually assaulted you.
Schellenberger serves on the Sexual Assault Evidence Kit Committee. It's a group of police, prosecutors, nurses now tasked with looking into these at-home kits and providing recommendations to the legislature come December as directed by Senate Bill 789. I asked Schellenberger if a ban like that in Washington could be in the cards for Maryland.
That could definitely be a possibility in the legislature.
Do you think it needs to be?
Let's see how this plays out.
Meanwhile, Leda Health maintains it is not a medical care provider and encourages survivors to seek professional care.
Simply looking for DNA. So it's not intended to give a survivor false hope or be a silver bullet.
Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
In a statement sent to Fox 45, Leda Health is responding to the criticism. They say they will work hand in hand with politicians, nonprofits, and regulators to ensure that all survivors are heard. We've posted their full statement on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Well, in the meantime, the deadline is approaching for sexual assault evidence kits and a committee to make a recommendation to Maryland lawmakers on these kits. That recommendation is due December 1st. We'll follow that for you. Well, let's go ahead and get over to your game day forecast. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart with where those temperatures stand. Is the gridiron hot for us? That's the question.
I think gridiron to be hot. I don't know about the stand so much, Taylor. Certainly at the morning tailgate. We're talking about 40s out there for the most part early in the day. Sunshine coming down on Baltimore right now. That's the good news. Nice view of the city there. 42 right now at BWI on a northeast breeze. And that northeasterly flow kind of hold temperatures down somewhat despite some good sunshine out there. So low 40s, some 30s on the board. Cockeysville 39, Bel Air 38, Eldersburg 39. Many spots, though, now above 40 degrees. We've had a few decent little gusts since midnight, 18, even 21 miles per hour. I think we'll keep that steady northeast breeze for at least the first half of the day. So brisk, yeah, you're going out to tailgate either at the neighborhood party or at M&T Bank Stadium. You're going to want that purple or black windbreaker on, something to kind of cut the wind. You can see it's a slow climb out of the 40s today. I think it briefly might touch 54 late this afternoon, but much of the day, low 50s and then back down into the 40s this evening. Our main weather maker that we've had over the last 24 hours, low pressure area down in the Carolinas, has stayed south of Maryland, kept the state dry, and that's going to continue to be the case as that system continues to move out to sea. More cool, dry air coming in out of the north, and basically just more dry weather, more sunny weather into the first several days of the week here. So definitely staying bright as that weather maker continues to move away. Northeasterly flow wrapping around our high pressure bubble, big Canadian high, centered up here toward Montreal. That northeasterly flow, again, kind of holding the chill in the air today and tonight. However, that will begin to ease up as we go midweek and get into kind of a less breezy pattern. And you see the overall setup here across the country's midsection. It is a bit milder. We got mid-60s all the way up to Omaha, where the Terps had their big win there yesterday in Nebraska. The milder air edging in toward early and midweek this week. But for now, you kind of see the numbers around that Canadian high just pushing that cool air down through New York, Boston, and even into Baltimore. Again, low 50s today. Just about it. I do think we begin to moderate starting Monday, upper 50s. Then we're around 60 or so Tuesday, Wednesday, mid 60s, I think, as we push toward the latter part of the week. So definitely trending a bit milder. And the biggest thing here, I'll tell you, just bright conditions. I mean, just a long trend of dry weather here. Our next chance for rain holding off until probably late day Friday into Saturday. And that's if that particular system holds together at 6 and 7 days out. You know, there's still obviously some subject to change here toward the latter part of the week. Remember your latest weather 24 hours a day at foxbaltimore.com. Back to you.
All right, and how much do you tip? That's a good question. A report's taking a look at tipping trends among Americans and why some are feeling the effects of tipflation. Topping your consumer news, streaming services continue to gain on cable TV and could soon end it for good. So what would the new cost be like? Well, the Nielsen company says last year streaming beat out cable for TV viewing for the first time ever. So if you ditch and switch, remember any streaming service that could implemented those price increases, it could run you about $83 to $125 monthly. That's for cable, rather. Streaming could run you around $147 a month. It depends on how many add-ons you include or bundles you have. A majority of Americans say they leave 15% for a tip at a restaurant. That's according to a Pew Research poll of about 12,000 Americans. 57% of those surveyed say they tip 15% at a sit-down restaurant. A quarter of people leave 20% or more. And 2% say they just don't tip at all. The majority of those surveyed say they are feeling the impact of tipflation, with 72% saying they are asked to tip more frequently than they did 5 years ago. All right, well, let's get over to America's Steals and Deals. Maybe no tipping, maybe cheaper prices there. Let's take a look.
The following segment is sponsored by Naki.
It is so unfortunate that 1 in 3 women will be assaulted in their lifetime, and that is a very scary statistic. And that's why I love Bling Sting, because you can feel safe and look fashionable all at the same time. And I insist that both my daughters carry this pepper spray because it's maximum strength and it has a 12-foot direct range. It also has a UV marking device that stains the target for up to 48 hours, which is really helpful for police to identify the attacker. That is really, really unique. And all it takes is one quick spray in the assailant's face to make them stop. It's also portable and it's easy to conceal, which I just did if you don't want anybody to see it. And they come in all these bright colors. They got camo too, so many patterns that you can pick your style and you can clip it anywhere. Like you can clip it to your backpack, you can belt loop, purse, wherever. And you know, this product gives me peace of mind knowing I'm protecting my daughters and myself. And right now, this is really, really great. We are offering 25% off the Bling Sting pepper spray. So head to asadeals.com for this exclusive offer. They're gonna go fast, so you wanna get this right away.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over that. Where is that? Is that downtown? That is downtown. Thanks for being with us here this Sunday, November 12th. I'm Taylor Stewart, and it's your game day. Let's get to your forecast. Meteorologist White Everhart. How are the tailgaters feeling this morning?
Well, they got the bright conditions. That's good, but you got to have that windbreaker on, right? A little breezy out there, Taylor. And certainly a chill in the air. 39 now. Aberdeen, the city a little milder at 44. 37 in Westminster, though. That's a bit on the chilly side. There's that light northeasterly flow. Northeast, I guess we'd call it. Just enough to keep a little extra brisk factor to the weather today. Overall, I think Mostly sunny conditions. We got a few fair weather clouds drifting across the state early in the day, but I think those will give way to more widespread sunshine into the afternoon. So looking ahead, you know, we're going to kind of bump up here into the low 50s as we work through the day. And for the game day forecast itself, now the numbers are going to be right around 50 to 54 degrees through the mid part of the game. Bring sunglasses as well. We'll talk about how many more days this week you need those sunglasses. Quite a few coming up.
This morning in a city in crisis, homicides are more. Yet many people tell Fox 45 they just do not feel any safer.
Homicides are down. That doesn't mean people aren't getting shot and stabbed. It just means that people aren't dying.
Now, Maxine Stryker has more on these safety concerns as other crimes in the city continue to rise.
It's the first time since 2015 Baltimore City will likely end the year under 300 homicides. According to police, 229 people have been killed this year compared to 289 last year at this time.
We are on track in Baltimore to see us under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years.
As Mayor Brandon Scott touts the decline, some residents say they don't feel any safer calling Baltimore home.
We don't go anywhere anymore. You're scared to death to step out your door.
According to the latest Goucher poll, nearly half of voters feel crime has gotten worse in their neighborhood over the past year.
People are scared to come out of their home in the middle of broad daylight. That is insane.
While less people have been killed,
homicides are down. That doesn't mean people aren't getting shot and stabbed. It just means that people aren't dying.
Other crime, including auto thefts, are on the rise. This year, more than 9,300 have been reported citywide.
We're so scared we're moving because this is the fourth time our car has been either vandalized, broke into, or stolen. I've been here for 5 years, but I can't live like this. I haven't slept since that day.
And young criminals continue to terrorize citizens, unchecked, often with no consequences.
The horrificness of youth crime is what's scaring a lot of people. The fact that it's so brazen.
Political analyst John Deedy says, while yes, homicides are down significantly, fear among Baltimoreans still exists.
I think that when you have a juvenile situation out of control, it creates more fear among people because the fact that they know these are young kids and they'll more likely be more reckless because everyone under 18 thinks they're invincible.
And Sergeant Betsy Smith with the National Police Association agrees.
As we get a handle on homicides, we have got to further that in Baltimore and take a hard look at crimes committed by people under the age of 18.
Now, as Maxine mentioned, auto thefts are on the rise. Just this past Wednesday, the Baltimore City Council held a hearing to address the ongoing car theft crisis. Now, police say more than 38% of those arrests are juveniles, many of them arrested multiple times for the exact same crime. Only two-thirds of those suspects are reported to the Department of Juvenile Services, though, and only 5% end up serving time in a DJS facility. The rest receive probation, have charges pending, or get their charges dismissed entirely. The City Council was critical of those numbers, saying change is not possible without accountability.
Baltimore City, we are failing our young people. And if we're not getting the job right, and they see that we're acting a fool, and we're not taking them seriously, they're not going to take us seriously.
We are having a crisis around young people that are committing very violent crimes, being arrested, and then not being fully held accountable.
Meanwhile, the Department of Juvenile Services is explaining how they decide which offenders should be released after committing a crime. Take a look.
The third decision that we could make is to release a young person to the care and custody of the guardian, and that is if it is a low-risk young person.
Now, many are telling Fox 45 they just feel the DJS data that they're using is outdated, leading to repeat violent offenders back on the streets in Baltimore. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has the latest.
Inside City Hall this week.
So, let me go to the presentation. Okay.
A presentation by DJS Deputy Secretary Lisa Gary about how the department determines whether to detain or release a juvenile.
And we complete what is called a detention risk assessment instrument. That is an instrument that we've been using for the last 12 years.
A decision essentially made by the push of a button.
Once we apply the detention risk assessment instrument, we get a sense of a youth's low, moderate, or high risk of failing to appear for court and or picking up a new offense.
But what's being considered a low risk?
I am deeply concerned.
Concerning all the way from City Hall.
We're seeing it in our neighborhoods. We're seeing it in all of our communities around carjackings.
To the streets of Baltimore City.
To get driven home? They drove them home after.
This woman viciously beaten by a 12 and 14-year-old. Arrested and released 2 hours later.
I should feel safe enough to walk home.
Even the 14-year-old's mother.
I don't know, I don't know what to do with them.
Calling out DJS's decision-making.
I think that some issues need to be addressed as far as dealing with the juvenile services system, because I've been going back and forth trying to get the help that I need for him.
And she's not the only parent.
Second time that he got in trouble for stealing a car and nothing happened, you know what I mean? I wanted to leave him there so he can learn his lesson.
Saying the department's risk assessment tool may need some calibrating.
It was validated in, I believe, 2015 and updated twice since that time.
An outdated way of thinking many feel has been figured out by those it's meant to oversee.
They know what they're doing. They know that if they commit a crime, they're going to more than likely go home.
A juvenile get locked up right now, he comes straight home back to wherever he was at.
Now, earlier this week, we told you about a 12-year-old who was arrested for armed robbery and then released within hours. 2 days later, he was arrested again for the same offense. These aren't the only problems facing the Department of Juvenile Services, though. The agency continues to face scrutiny about how well they manage young offenders. Earlier this year, Maryland's Attorney General found problems with educational services, unsanitary conditions, boredom, and unsafe staffing levels. In fact, there's also questions about the effectiveness of their GPS monitoring system. This summer, a teen under their supervision was linked to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. In August, Fox 45 found over 100 youth were under GPS monitoring, but just 14 members of DJS's staff were assigned to supervise them.
They're not complying with the terms that have been imposed, and they will continue to think that their actions are just not all that serious.
Fox 45 has relentlessly covered issues within the state's Department of Juvenile Services, and we've got all of our stories listed for you at our website, foxbaltimore.com. After the break, the new FBI headquarters coming to Maryland, but not without some pushback. Why critics argue the decision was a conflict of interest.
I'm Wyatt Everhart. Our big high pressure bubble continues to sit just north of Maryland, bringing in that cool northeasterly breeze. But what does that mean for temperatures, not just today, but the week ahead? We'll detail all that coming up just a few minutes. Stay here on Fox 45 Morning News.
cannot stress enough how big this is for Prince George's County.
Governor Wes Moore, they're celebrating the decision to build a multi-billion-dollar FBI headquarters right in Greenbelt. The General Services Administration citing transportation, readiness to build, and equity, as well as cost, as all reasons they chose this spot over Virginia. But not everyone agrees with the decision. FBI Director Christopher Wray sending out a letter calling out the GSA, alleging the decision was tainted by a conflict of interest. Ultimately, the GSA rejects that notion.
This is a done deal. Decision made.
There is no more conversation. There's no more deliberation. There's no more questioning. It's over. The FBI building will be coming to Maryland, and we could not be more excited, and we are ready.
Now, Congress still has to approve the funding. Even if all goes as hoped, the project will not begin for another 3 years. A big day for Birdland, the division matchup happening in our backyard, and why the Ravens defense is not worried about the Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson. That's just ahead. And after the break, one local group providing comfort to grieving families, how they're using teddy bears, dancing, and raffles to help kids, parents, and healthcare workers. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. All right, a local nonprofit's been providing support for Maryland families for years, including those who deal with loss as well as those in the healthcare industry. This morning we have Sierra Mullen, the vice president of Tucker's Teddies, with us this morning. Good morning, Sierra.
Good morning.
Now tell us more. You have an event coming up next week, but just so people know what Tucker's Teddies do and how it got started, just give us a little bit of background.
So in 2018, my son Tucker unfortunately passed away after a battle with a heart condition. And we just knew that after how hard we struggled with the loss, that we needed to show some sort of support for other families going through it, the staff that was supporting these children, just everything in between. So we had this idea that a doctor recommended to us to give teddy bears to families suffering. We do staff support, like bringing lunches. We do memory making kits for handprints, footprints, things like that. Anything that we really can provide, we give to the hospitals to help.
That's important, especially as people go through loss and grief. And knowing it firsthand, I'm sure you have a very personal connection to it.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Tell me a bit about what you guys have coming up this week and how people can get involved.
Saturday, we are doing our second ever benefit dance. It's obviously our first one since COVID. The first one was so much fun, so we're just really excited for it. If people want to come, we would love that. Donations are always very, very helpful on our website, on our Facebook page. At the dance this year, we're going to be having a really good menu, an awesome DJ, raffles, money boards, everything that you can think of. But I think everyone really enjoys the dance floor and the DJ.
Yeah. And all of this goes to make sure that you guys are able to provide support for people who've been in your spot or in your shoes, or healthcare workers who help women who've lost ones.
Exactly.
So can people volunteer? Is there any other opportunity they can get involved if they're not able to come to the dance?
Yeah, I mean, you can always reach out to us. We would love to put people to work where we can. Yeah.
And accepting donations.
Always accepting donations, yes.
Okay. Sierra, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing your story and telling us about the program you guys have. And that dance next week.
I know.
Dancing
so
for a good
excited.
cause.
Yes.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and get over to Wyatt to see if we can dance it outside today, because
well, you want to stay in motion, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. Even if you got like the windbreaker on, just keep moving, tailgating, keep moving out there. We've definitely got a chill in the air. 42 right now, BWI, the city around the low 40s. Only warm about 10 degrees today because of a pretty persistent northerly breeze, and so we see widespread low 40s, even a few 30s left, like places like Bel Air. Again, add about 10 degrees to where you are now. That's where we're going to end up late this afternoon. A couple decent breezes through the area since midnight, 15, 20 miles per hour. I think most part today, breezy 10 to 12 miles per hour out of the northeast. But it's a chilly wind, no question about that. And you see it holds our numbers down. Early day 40s, midday low 50s, maybe touching 54, I think, for a high. And then we're right down into the low 50s and upper 40s later on this afternoon and evening. You can kind of see widespread dry weather, just a few fair weather clouds. Our main weather maker is that area of low pressure down into the Carolinas. That continues to move safely away and out to sea today. So we're left with really relatively quiet weather across Maryland, continuing. More dry weather, more sunny weather as well. It will be crisp. The numbers will be chilly overnight tonight. I think a widespread frost Monday morning, a pretty good bet. But that's the overall trend, a fresh chill that has come into Maryland. It's going to hold tough today, even into early Monday. But then we're back to 60 or so, even a little above 60 this week. And we've got sunshine coming for days. Big Canadian high pressure. This is a big dome of sinking air. Kind of keeps the weather very stable. That's also what kept that rain safely south of us yesterday into today. That's going to continue to be our main weather maker. And you do see the chill has now invaded really the northwestern 2/3 of the U.S. and Baltimore no exception. We're getting the leading edge of that much cooler air. So we're seeing more and more of that winter pattern beginning to set up here as we go into the late fall. Just the way it goes on the calendar, right? Lots of sunshine throughout this week, though. Unbelievable. Such a long, dry stretch. We can get some very long, rainy stretches in November around Maryland. You know that. None of that this week. In fact, next chance for showers late Friday into Saturday, and we'll see if even that much rain holds up. We'll see. Back to you.
All right. Well, we're turning now to Sports Unlimited. The Ravens demolished the Browns the first time around, playing one of their best games of the season with a 28-3 win in Cleveland. The big difference this time around is who's going to be starting as quarterback. Last time, Dorian Thompson and Robinson got the start, with Deshaun Watson being held out due to injury. That's not going to be the case today. Watson's good to go, and the Ravens know the challenges he presents as a dual-threat quarterback. But the Birds defense says they're locked in. They're ready to go.
Obviously, it's Deshaun Watson. They give him all that money for a reason. So he's a great player. But at the end of the day, he's coming to our stadium with our team, with our defense, with our fans. So that place is going to be rocking. We're going to have it rocking. We're going to do what we need to on defense to get them jumping and just try to shut them down.
Good veteran quarterback. Been in the league for a while, so got a lot of respect for him. The guy can, let it rip, and then, he's able to use his legs as well. So we'll be very prepared for it. A lot of confidence in Mike, the defensive staff, to have us ready for the game. So looking forward to it.
Okay, let's look at the injury report here. 4 players are questionable for today's game. We've got Marlon Humphrey, Keaton Mitchell. They both have hamstring injuries. Jalen Armour Davis has an illness, and Morgan Moses has a shoulder injury. Remember, you can watch all of this NFL action right here on Fox 45 after our 11 a.m. show. Watch NFL Sunday Kickoff. Then at 1 o'clock, the Ravens host the Cleveland Browns right in our backyard. And finishing out your sports-filled weekend with Fox 45 views. We're daring the Commanders and Seattle as they take on the Seahawks. That kickoff there is 4:25. And stick with Fox 45 Morning News after the break. Meteorologist Wyatt Everharts joins us at the desk for his exclusive 7 days we send you off on this Sunday. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at M&T Bank. Can you see the tailgaters out there? They're already starting to fill up the parking lot.
I mean, it's an all-morning affair at the bank. Look, it's a chilly tailgate, but we're dry. There's not a lot of wind, just kind of a breeze. So this is kind of, you know, classic November tailgate weather, Taylor. By the time we get to kickoff, I think we're right around 50, 52 degrees, and we'll hover in the low 50s throughout the course of the game. How about the extended forecast? Pretty much, you know, pretty stable here, right? Like we're going to get back to around 60 this week. A lot of sunny days. Next chance for rain, maybe the tail end of the week, and I don't see any major Arctic blast, at least over the next 7 to 10 days. We'll see, but right now it looks kind of classic fall weather. Right?
Classic fall weather, seasonably right on point, and I like that we have some bright days ahead of us.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's the thing. You think about this time of year, we can get like those many days of rain, and it's just not there right now. So enjoy the dry weather.
I'm not mad at it. Good for Veterans Day weekend, and good to send you guys off on your week on this game day. We'll be back here though at 10:30. Come back with us here at Fox 45 Morning News.